This is chapter 2 of consumer behavior, and we're going to talk about cross-cultural variations. Marketing across cultures is a challenging task. Different cultures vary in many ways, including languages, demographics, values, and even nonverbal communication. So the success of global marketers really depends on how well they understand and adapt to these cultural differences. This is an example of a marketing campaign by Adidas where the global brand offended the country of Colombia simply by not knowing how to spell their country's name. Do you think that maybe this have affected sales and their customer relationships with this particular segment? It was believed that Western cultures like the US had a one-way influence on culture in the world, but now we're seeing that there is a mutual influence of values and ideas. We're seeing brands such as Uniqlo from Japan and Zara from Spain in our day-to-day. The same can be said for Netflix shows that become popular. A lot of this flow of ideas, fashion, and trends have to do with the interconnectivity of social media and the high degree of globalization. There are four major world citizens. Global citizens feel positively about international brands and are concerned about corporate responsibility to the local country. Global dreamers feel positively about international brands, but are not concerned about the corporate responsibility to the local country. Anti-globals are pretty much against international brands. They don't like brands that have American values. And global agnostics don't base decisions on global brand names and eventually evaluate all products equally. Culture is a complex whole that includes knowledge, belief, art, law, morals, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by humans as members of society. Culture provides the framework in which individuals and household lifestyles evolve. Culture operates by setting loose boundaries in for individual behavior. The boundaries that culture sets on behavior are cultural norms, and these norms specify or prohibit certain behaviors in specific situations. For example, wearing a bikini to church may be offensive, but it's not against the law. So norms are really the attitudes and behaviors that are considered normal or typical within a group, and norms are derived from cultural values. These are widely held beliefs that affirm what is desirable. Not abiding by these cultural norms results in sanctions such as social disapproval to banishment from the group. Cultures are not static. They typically change and evolve over time. The numerous values that differ across cultures and affect consumption include other-oriented values, which are society's views of the appropriate relationships between individuals and groups within that society. Environment-oriented values, which are society's relationship to its economic, technical, and physical environment, and self-oriented values, the objective and approaches to life that the individual members of society find desirable. Individual collective is the first of the other-oriented values. This asks the question, are individual activity and initiative valued more highly than collective activity and conformity? Are individual differences appreciated or condemned? Are rewards and status given to individuals or groups? Consumers in the more collectivist countries tend to be more imitative and less innovative in their purchases. So ads encouraging individuals to express their individuality and to stand out would be more effective in individualistic countries such as the US, Australia, the UK, Canada, and New Zealand, and probably would not do so well in collectivist countries like Mexico, Russia, India, Japan, Korea, or China. Both collectivist and individualist countries like to shop luxury brands, but for different reasons. Individualistic countries like the US purchase luxury items as a means of self-expression and to stand out. Collectivist countries, on the other hand, like China, purchase luxury items to gain in-group membership. The next of the other-oriented values is youth or age. Are younger or older people valued as leaders and role models? What role do they play in decisions that primarily affect the child? Like going out to eat, who has a say in that? While American society is clearly youth-oriented, many Asian cultures have traditionally valued the wisdom that comes with age. However, China's policy of one child has shifted a lot of attention to the child, and they are typically referred to as little emperors in their family. In Italian families also, there is a deep respect for elderly family members. The next one is extended or limited family. This answers the question, to what extent does one have a lifelong obligation to family members? The family unit is the basis for virtually all societies. Our families have a lifelong impact on us, both genetically and through nurture, no matter what culture we are in. In the US, family obligations tend to be limited to the immediate family, and this diminishes as members establish their own families. In South America, Israel, Italy, Greece, and Asia, family obligations extend to cousins, aunts, nieces, and nephews as well. Next is masculine or feminine. This answers the question, to what extent does social power automatically go to males? Are rank, prestige, and important social roles assigned primarily to men? Does the husband, wife, or both make the important family decisions? This affects the role we would portray women in ads in Muslim countries compared to the US. This is predominantly a masculine-oriented world, but the degree of masculine orientation does vary across country. Let's observe this map of countries who've had women as head of state. Okay. And finally, we have cooperative or competitive. Is success attained by excelling over others or cooperating with them? Does everyone admire a winner? Cultures with more masculine and individualistic orientations tend to value competitiveness and demonstrate it openly, like in the US. In China, they teach cooperation and to succeed together from an early age. A good example will be this awesome group of activity in the following video. Not to mention these kids are extremely talented. And finally, we have diversity or uniformity. Does the culture embrace various religions, ethnic groups, political views, etc.? Collectivist cultures value uniformity and conformity, while individualistic cultures tend to value diversity more. Next are the environment-oriented values. This will be done by the students as we did in class today. You can find this discussion on Blackboard. Verbal communication systems, aka languages, are immediately obvious when entering a foreign country. Nonverbal communication, however, is a bit more complicated. Nonverbal communication is the arbitrary meanings a culture assigns to actions, events, and things other than words. Different cultures have various perceptions of time. Most Americans, Canadians, Western Europeans, and Australians tend to view time as inescapable, linear, and fixed, and have a monochronic time perspective. When a meeting or social event is set at 5 p.m., for instance, they will be there at 5 p.m. or earlier. Most Latin Americans, Asians, and Indians tend to view time as being less discrete and have what is considered a polychronic time perspective. In these countries, scheduled activities don't tend to start at the exact scheduled time. In some of these countries, it is considered rude to arrive at a social gathering at the exact invitation time. Sometimes even arriving 1 hour or 2 after the scheduled time is the acceptable norm for a party. I actually have a friend who suffered from this cultural difference mistake. When I lived in Venezuela right after college, I met a friend there called Parker from Atlanta, Georgia. He invited me to a Halloween party. It started at 9 p.m. He was supposed to get picked up by some Venezuelan friends of his at a nearby shopping mall. But his friends arrived at the normal time to arrive at a party to pick him up in South America, which is 2 hours after that start time. So he literally waited 2 hours in front of a closed shopping mall wearing the only costume he knew how to make from his frat party days, a toga made out of bed sheets. To him, this cultural mishap was the rudest thing ever. In terms of marketing strategy, personal selling negotiation styles and strategies would need to differ to adjust for these time conceptions. One way to describe the concept of space is bigger is better, how it is in America. The bigger offices are, the highest ranked individual will be in it. Lobbies are bigger and food is served in larger quantities or bigger plates. In Europe, for instance, public bathrooms are smaller, hallways are smaller, food is served in smaller plates. Another way to consider the concept of space is in personal interactions. How close is too close? In the United States, normal business conversations occur at a distance between 3 to 5 feet. Any closer would be considered or make the other person feel uncomfortable. In parts of Northern Europe, the distances are closer, and they are a bit closer even in Latin America. Colors, animals, shapes, numbers, and music have varying meanings across cultures. Failure to recognize the meanings assigned to a symbol can cause serious problems. For instance, the color blue is considered masculine and pink is considered to be feminine in the United States and a lot of other countries. However, it is not the case in the Netherlands, where blue can be feminine as well. These are some of the symbols that are associated with cultures. You can hit pause and read them amongst yourselves. How quickly and easily do cultures form relationships and make friends? Americans tend to form relationships and friends quickly and easily. Chinese relationships are much more complex. In the public school system in the United States, students go from elementary school to middle school and ultimately to high school, and sometimes it's not with the same classmates. In other countries, friendships tend to be formed in kindergarten or elementary school, and students stay in the same school until the end of high school and even in college. It is hard for people to make it into a friend group at a later stage in life because of how close-knit this original group is. But in the US, you can make friends at any point in your life and career. This happens because of the higher degree of social mobility that is experienced here, which is the process of going from one social class to another through achievements and hard work. The generally accepted ways of behaving in social situations is etiquette. Behaviors considered rude or obnoxious in one culture may be quite acceptable in another. Normal voice tone, pitch, and speed of speech differ between cultures and languages, as do the use of gestures. In Italy, for instance, you speak with a lot of gestures, like hand gestures and motions. Let's look at this video that has some cultural differences in etiquette.
Sorry. Sorry. In Italy, different flowers have different meanings. Chrysanthemums, for example, are associated with funerals and sadness. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. Bank. The English believe it's a slur on your host's food if you don't clear your plate. Whereas the Chinese feel you're questioning their generosity if you do. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. Which is why we have local banks staffed by local people in over 80 countries across the globe.